Welcome back. It's the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Solagent, your total clean energy solution provider, pioneering solar distribution since 1979, and your largest pure play solar distributor in the Americas. Welcome to the Beyond Emissions podcast, the number one podcast here on YouTube for renewable energy. But you know, we're not the best of the best. We've got the best of the best as partners that join us on a regular basis, that help you and us and all of us continue to understand and grow in our knowledge and our value. You know, at the end of the day, Einstein once said, don't seek to be successful, seek to be valuable. And if you're listening to the Beyond Emissions podcast and all of the collaborations we have with customers, experts, vendors, experts from around the world that we have on the program, we're able to glean knowledge that helps to make us more valuable for ourselves, our teammates, our customers, and more. So let's focus on becoming more valuable today by growing in our knowledge together. And who better to have on the Beyond Emissions podcast than a veteran, a legend in the renewable energy industry. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Barry Cinnamon. He's CEO, Cinnamon Energy Systems. Something written up here from MIT Club of Northern California. Barry Cinnamon, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems, Silicon Valley solar energy storage contractor. Previously, the founder, CEO of Akina Westinghouse Solar. Since 2001, he's completed over 10,000 residential and commercial installations, many with batteries. BS degree in, you know what, rather than run through your entire resume, let's introduce you. Ladies and gentlemen, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems, a friend of the program, a friend of myself as well. Thanks for joining us today on the Beyond Emissions podcast, Mr. Barry Cinnamon. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, Josh. What a terrific intro. But I can kind of sum it up briefly. I'm just an energy geek that happens to have a bunch of contractors' licenses. And those licenses allow me to do what my passion is, which is helping people save money and reduce emissions. And it also allows me to tinker with new technology so I can see kind of what is really going to be best for people. And I'm a firm believer. We talk about what beyond emissions really means to me. Altruism is what the world needs to get out of this climate problem. Unfortunately, altruism conflicts with saving money and economics. But when those two overlap, when reducing emissions saves money, that's when we have very fast-growing markets. We've experienced that in the solar industry over the past 15 years. There is no doubt from, the International Energy Administration to, everyone, that by far and away, the cheapest way to generate electricity is with solar panels. It's better than wind. It's way better than anything else. Of course, we have the dilemma of storing that energy, and that's how storage comes into it. But we are in a revolutionary time where we're looking at the solution to climate change being the simplest thing that we all know, which is solar panels pretty much everywhere. And it works. So we can achieve those goals. Yeah, I have to say it's no longer a technology or an economic issue. The biggest impediments we have are really political, but we could get into that a little bit more. So I know, Josh, just point me in the right direction, and I'll just continue to talk about whatever I think is going to make the most sense for our listeners.
I love it. Barry Cinnamon, Cinnamon Energy Systems, CEO. Contact Cinnamon Energy at 408-883-7000 or go to cinnamon.energy. I love it, Barry. It's not an either or. There isn't, you either pick the environment or you pick the economy. No, at the end of the day, it's a synonymous thing. One cannot be happening without the other. The economy, the environment, they work together. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The millions of years that it took for that gallon of gas that was derived from the crude oil taken out of the ground. It's burned one time. There's uses. I mean, we are under no illusions here that we're eliminating oil altogether or the use of oil or emissions. There's been carbon in the atmosphere from sources other than man-made sources for years that caused ice ages and all of that ice to melt again and again. We go through these cycles. But man, we have a problem. We are connected to that problem. We are a part of, like, are we going to come back to some magical balance? No, because there is up and down cycles. There are back and forths. But there is an imbalance, and we look at this in any ecological situation where there's a lack of balance, and you have different species that become endangered or extinct. You have different ways that we survive are now not attainable anymore, whereas some of those resources once were. Water, as an example. But I mean, I digress. The point is that we have an effect on it in taking it out of balance. There is some balance there, and we've taken away the ability for that carbon to be reabsorbed again. And the rate at which we're taking those fossil fuels out of the ground and burning them is far faster than the natural systems that Mother Earth has been equipped with by God to be able to absorb that carbon, right? I mean, it's all natural. Yeah, it's a part of it, but there's an imbalance, right, Barry?
There's an imbalance. It's a scientific fact. Unfortunately, our industry that's pushing for a clean energy economy is being financially overwhelmed by the incumbent fossil fuel industry. It's economics, it's politics, it's the way it is. But what's really distressing to me as an engineer is that the fossil fuel industry is able to create a story about delusions of fossil fuels being okay. And I love journalism. I study journalism. I'd like to be as objective as possible. But it distresses me that journalists are basically just parroting back what the fossil fuel industry is saying, which is that you can clean up the emissions from fossil fuels in a positive economic way. That's thermodynamically impossible. If you basically say, I'm going to take the CO2 that we've emitted into the air and try and clean that up, or if I scrub that CO2 out of the flue emissions, it will take more energy than it's worth. So you end up with outrageously expensive clean fossil fuel energy, whereas you might as well just put a wind turbine and some solar panels there. So that's distressing to me. Brace yourself for a lot of pushback of the upcoming, climate summit that's happening in, I think it's Qatar or the UAE, I forgot which one, which is being hosted by one of the biggest fossil fuel the refiners and manufacturers. It's one of the Arab countries. And their position, the fossil fuel industry's position is, we can still pump oil and make money, and the economy will be clean. That's thermodynamically impossible, full stop, stick a fork in it. So we have to kind of overcome that thinking. And I'm okay with all of the tests that have been done on direct air capture systems. But I'm becoming less patient about it because these failed experiments of showing how direct air capture can be a solution to our emissions problem are being positioned as a realistic future, as opposed to just an excuse as to why we can continue to pump oil and pollute the environment with CO2, and hope that in the future somehow magically these direct air capture systems are going to work, or carbon capture and sequestration, which is basically just taking the CO2, putting it underground, and hoping the Earth doesn't burp. But anyway, I digress. We have the luxury of being the solar and storage industry, by far and away the best solution to this climate emergency, and we just have to shout louder and convince the public and our policymakers of our position and how this is by far and away the best solution as opposed to continuing with the fossil fuel dead end.
Yes, and the efficiency differences too, right? The fact that you burn it once, you use it once for whatever, whether it's plastic or fuel or whatever you're using, that gallon of crude oil, that barrel or whatever it is, you're taking that raw resource and you're getting your use out of it, and then it's burned, it's done, it's over, it's not able to be used again. Whereas you take raw, materials and resources and you're pulling it out of the ground, as an example, minerals, et cetera, needed for batteries and for building solar panels, et cetera. It's still requiring resources, but that's happening only one time. And then it's continually going to recreate new energy again and again and again and again. I don't know how anybody could argue against renewable energy and say that it's anything but 1,000 times more efficient than our current way of burning energy, right?
Well, they talk about, I did research on this in college back in, I think, 1977. It's the energy payback of different systems. At the time, we were looking at the energy payback of solar thermal systems. It was okay. But now if you look at the energy payback of a solar PV panel, based on the low costs we have right now, if you take into account all of the inputs that go into that solar panel, you're still looking at an energy payback of a year. And so, the people who are saying it uses more energy than it's worth, that's completely ridiculous. And that's, just a matter of making sure that we've got the facts in front of people and proceeding from there. Now, we kind of bring politics into it, and I'm kind of skipping around a little bit. I'm looking, as you may know, I'm a California-centric business based here in Silicon Valley doing solar and storage for residential and commercial, and now we're doing a lot of electrification work for our customers. But we're faced with a political barrier in California, ostensibly the most environmentally sensitive state in the country, where the state government, from the governor to the legislators to the mayors, are in the pockets of the utilities and the fossil fuel industry. Now, sometimes the utilities that are making a transition to clean energy, it's good. Fossil fuel industry, I would say, with almost no reservations, it's almost all bad. But what's really upsetting here in California is that the lobbying that was done by the investor-owned utilities, PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric primarily, have managed to persuade every critical legislator to vote for utility-centric policies and convince the Public Utilities Commission that the most efficient and affordable way of generating power for buildings, which is where we all live and work, is through the utility model. And the result is that we're looking at electricity rates in California. My rate right now, next year, was over 57 cents a kilowatt hour plus the 13% that they just added onto it. I mean, I'm looking at 65 to 70 cents a kilowatt hour electricity for my home at peak times. That's absurd. And it will continue to go up because the utilities, and they're regulated, but extremely poorly. The utilities are basically focusing on maximizing their profits instead of providing what they should be doing, which is clean, safe, and affordable electricity. And I'll give you one fundamental data point that when you digest it will explain the whole situation as to why basically net metering was terminated in California. There's a preference given for the IBEW to build our entire power plants, why middle and low income people can't get affordable community solar or any solar whatsoever, and why they're canceling virtual net metering and net metering aggregation. Very simple reason. Data that was pulled together by the Solar Alliance shows that in 2022, last year, the major utilities donated $18 million to key politicians around the state. Part of that was a $5 million check that was written by PG&E to Governor Newsom for his reelection campaign last year. And by the time that check had cleared, there was a new Public Utilities Commission in place, and they were 100% against distributed generation, rooftop solar, and generating clean, affordable electricity, and 100% for doing everything through utilities, which is great if you're a utility stockholder, but if you pay an electric bill, you're going to get killed because it's just going through the roof. We're looking at rate increases, I think, that have been 13% the last 2 years, and next year also 13%, and more increases on the way as we build out the infrastructure for generating power hundreds or thousands of miles away, underground transmission lines, substations, and all that other stuff just to get power to your house and my house and to our companies. Whereas by far and away the best way to get that power is just more solar panels on these rooftops, and that can be implemented within a matter of years instead of the 20 years that it's going to take for them to build out this infrastructure. Anyway.
Is that why?
I don't know if there's anything else you want me to rant on.
No, yeah. Let's continue. Barry Cinnamon, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems. Again, give him a ring, 408-883-7000, cinnamon.energy. Go there today. Thank you very much, Barry, for being here with us on the Beyond Emissions podcast brought to you by Solagent. Folks, click on the link below to find out more. Barry, let's continue. I love it. I'm fine with you speaking the truth because, you know, politically speaking, generally it's the folks who are running the red states that are fighting against, distributing solar to the masses, if you will, as a way of having that distributed energy model versus the centralized model. And, you know, here we are in the bluest of blue states, and here in this ultra blue state with the blue governor, it blows my mind, actually. I mean, I never thought that we would be dealing with this type of situation with a Democrat legislature and a Democrat governor. I just would never have dreamed of it being what proponents the blue states usually are for renewable energy. And I know they're claiming to still be that proponents of renewable energy, I guess by having it be done by the utility in big, gigantic, huge, like solar farms or battery farms, etc. But that's not sustainable long term. That's more expensive. Like, it blows my mind. I speak on that. I love your thinking.
Josh, I got to get the image of your brain exploding from this transition, and, you know, brain matter all over the place, kind of gory. But like blue states, kind of Democratic, right? Red states, Republican. Republicans, renewable, bad. Democrats, blue states, renewables, good. I testified in front of the Senate committee for this for one of these bills a couple summers ago, and actually it was last summer. And I was doing this testimony on behalf of the California Solar Resource Association, extraordinarily best organization, had everything ready, great lobbyist. Bernadette's the best executive director probably on the planet when it comes to this. And I was in front of the Democratic group over there, and this group of state Democrats, some of whom we even had contributed to, wouldn't give me the time of day to discuss the benefits of distributed generation, told me to sit down in favor of listening to the IBEW's lobbyist, a gentleman by the name of Scott Wetsch. And they allowed him to speak again. And when I said, well, I'd like to rebut that or comment, and the head of the committee said, Mr. Cinnamon, please sit down. So I couldn't even respond. But luckily, the Republicans on the committee said, oh, wait a minute, we want to hear what Mr. Cinnamon has to say. We just looked up his workers' comp ratios, and he seems to be running a very efficient, very safe, very good company. We want to hear what he has to say. So, Josh, ironically, and, you know, just keep the brain matter off of your screen, ironically, it was the Republicans who were more interested in what I had to say, really from a business perspective, than the Democrats on the committee, who basically were taking tens of thousands of dollars each from the utilities. And unfortunately, obviously, my testimony fell on 10 out of 12 deliberately deaf ears. But that's kind of what money is able to buy when it comes to energy policy, and in fact, bad energy policy for everybody but the utility stockholders. So that's kind of where we're at, and I have
what can we do?
How to solve it?
What, in your opinion, Barry Cinnamon with us, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems. Again, 408-883-7000, cinnamon.energy. Go there today. Barry Cinnamon with us on the Beyond Emissions podcast. Barry, what are we to do then? Because I would think this is the ultimate bipartisan issue in America. But no, money has bought influence, as it always has and probably always will. What can we do? Homeowners, business owners, is it best to really focus on self-consumption systems that get us off of the utility altogether? Or is it, what can we do with the power we have?
Really good question, Josh. And I'll give you several things that we can do. And these are things that I'm doing. The first thing is find out what your politicians' positions are. Find out if they take any money at all from fossil fuel companies, or particularly, it's not the fossil fuel companies that are our problem. It's really the investor-owned utilities. Find out if they take any money from the investor-owned utilities or their stalking horses like the IBEW. So for me, that's a red line. Democrats, friends, I'd see them at meetings and fundraisers. I'm like, sorry, Mr. Representative, I will not support you one bit. I'll support your opponent because you are taking money from utilities that are bad for us. So that's one. Make sure you do not contribute to politicians who are against rooftop solar, and make sure you don't vote for them. So that's number one. Number two, California, the ship has left a little bit, but what you should do is take advantage of every rooftop solar system and battery storage system you can install, because that is by far and away your best way of escaping this trap of 10% increases in electric rates every year on a compounded basis. And not only does your electricity cost go up, but we will all use more electricity because we're driving EVs, because we're putting heat pumps in our homes, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to find a way to produce your own power. And number three, for people who are kind of, sort of a long-term orientation and maybe doing some real estate investment, under no circumstances should you buy any property that's next to water, whether it's a river or oceanside property. Don't buy oceanside property. I grew up in New Jersey, spent the time down at the New Jersey shore, spent a lot of time in the shore up in the Boston area, and those coastal areas are going to be 5 feet underwater in 20 years. And it's not a steady progression of sea level rise. There will be disruptive events, whether it's, a glacier, the Antarctic ice shelf collapsing, and boom, we're going to suddenly see not a 1 centimeter increase a year. We could see like a 5-inch increase a year, and that's going to be devastating to our coastal communities. It'll wipe out every insurance company on the planet, and it's going to be a challenge. So those are the three things you can do. Don't support the investor-owned utilities, and make sure you vote for the right politicians. Find a way to generate your own power, and don't buy seaside property. Those are my three recommendations.
Independence. It's like our Declaration of Independence, like going back to 1776, right, Barry? We're making our energy, our clean energy Declaration of Independence, and it's the most American thing we can do, regardless of what your party politics normally are. It's the most American thing an American can do, right, Barry?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of on that thread, and as you can probably detect, I'm not a big fan of investor-owned utilities. And it's simply because I'm seeing money shifting from ratepayers to stockholders instead of us, producing affordable, safe electricity. Which, it's great that most of the electricity in California is clean, mostly coming from solar and wind. but it's a crying shame that it's so expensive, and it's not that reliable. The unreliability side of things actually both of those factors, unreliability and expensive, that's good for our industry, but I'm putting that aside. What I'm very sensitive to programs and ideas that utilities are forcing upon the state to ostensibly improve our electric grid, but when you dig into the numbers below, you find out that these ideas, these initiatives are fundamentally not going to save customers money and fundamentally just going to increase utility profits at the expense of ratepayers. So I'm going to give you two really simple examples. Josh, if we have time, I'm happy to drill into the details. Virtual power plants, terrific idea. Harnessing, hundreds or thousands are harnessing 1 million batteries in California so that they can support the grid when the grid needs that power. There's one technical problem and one economic problem with that. The technical problem is that these battery systems all require a lot of software and communications technology in order to deliver what they want. That's one. There's solutions to that. It's complicated, but it can be done. The economic problem, when you think about it, is since utilities make money based on their net assets, they will only be in favor of energy alternatives if it doesn't detract from their net assets, or in other words, or if it increases their profits. So when you kind of dig into the details of these virtual power plants that are sponsored by investor-owned utilities, you'll find that the compensation they give to the owners of these little power plants, homeowners that decided to buy a system, or somebody that leased it, whatever, it's part of their deal, whatever, find out that the economic benefits to these virtual power plant owners are de minimis. It's very small. They're not going to give you they're not going to give you value for what your battery's worth. They're going to give you a little bit, but the utilities save a lot more money because during these grid events, they don't have to buy electricity at $10 a kilowatt hour. They can buy it from you at like 50 cents a kilowatt hour, which is just a killer profitable thing. So that's one example. Another example, very similar actually, but possibly could have even a bigger impact, is the concept of vehicle to grid, the concept of using the battery in your vehicle to support the grid when, once again, the grid needs that extra power. The vehicle batteries are probably 100 times more capacity. There's 100 times more capacity. Basically, the batteries are typically 100 kilowatt hours instead of 10 or 20. And second is there's a lot more EVs than home battery systems. But when you look at the compensation that the utility wants to give you for tapping into your vehicle's battery, it's once again tiny, and it comes on top of a very big upfront cost to add the extra hardware that your utility requires to participate in these vehicle to grid, bi-directional events. So this may be way down in the weeds for a lot of your listeners, but you're looking at a picture that's being painted by the utilities of a future of the electric grid that is going to expand the utilities' control over it, and at the same time minimize our ability to be independent.
And there's double dipping. There's double dipping because you're basically taking your energy from one pocket and putting it into another. So they're going to take your energy out of your electrical vehicle, and then at some point in time you're going to have to either from your own energy or their energy or the infrastructure at a fast charger station somewhere, you're going to take that energy. It's almost like they're double dipping in a sense, Barry.
They are double dipping. It's because people don't do the math. It's I kind of ran through what the cost of a vehicle battery is, and if you look at say you're going to drive the thing for 100,000 miles or for 10 years, and you look at how much it costs to replace the battery, I think it's $120,000. It turns out that using your EV battery costs you 28 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay, now if I charge up my battery at night, I spend 27 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's almost double dipping. If they give me 10 or 20 cents a kilowatt hour, it's like you're ripping me off. They have to give me 56 cents or 60 cents a kilowatt hour just for me to break even. They're not going to do that.
And not only that, the life cycles on that EV battery have now gone down, so you're going to see degraded mileage as far as range is concerned, and the life expectancy of your EV battery is now less, which means you're going to have to buy another EV sooner, correct? I mean, it's almost in a sense triple dipping.
Yeah. Now the thing about the vehicle batteries lifespan declining, obviously with the first generation of NiCad batteries, they were terrible. Then we came out with nickel metal cobalt batteries, which is what I have in my one of my EVs. That's kind of the standard lithium-ion chemistry. There's some degradation there. But I read recently that the newer lithium iron phosphate, LFP chemistries, as long as you're not pulling it down to zero and charging up to 100% every time, you're looking at a very small effect on the longevity of that LFP battery. So that's a good thing. But what baffles me, maybe not that much, but what baffles me is the car companies have jumped into bed with the utilities to screw the customers, to screw ratepayers. Whereas to me, it's so much better for, Ford to say, hey, with your Lightning truck, by the way, you can plug it into your home battery system at no charge and power your house without violating any rules. And guess what? Now you've just added to the value of that Ford Lightning truck. As it's a rolling generator with 131 kilowatt hours of energy in it. You can pretty much run your house off grid on that completely legally, just by connecting it in the proper way to an existing home battery system.
Now, the home battery system, charging a battery with a battery, right?
You're going to lose 10%.
Right. And so you lose some efficiency there, but you keep control. You maintain that control. The ultimate goal, self-consumption, Barry?
Yeah, it's the ultimate goal is being energy independent. So let's kind of do another, quick and dirty thought experiment. When is electricity the least expensive in California? When? During the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an abundance of solar energy. There's almost a negative electricity price during the day because we have so much solar generation. Okay? So where are our vehicles during the day? They're at work. They're at the library. They're at school. They're not at home. So we want to be charging up our vehicles somehow during the day at work. So the logical place to put the solar panels is on every public building and in every company building. So you can charge your vehicle up during the day. It's parked. You're getting very cheap electricity. And then you drive your battery home at night to power your house at night. So now you're charging at very inexpensive rates. I mean, corporate EV charging probably is less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And then you can offset that 57 cents a kilowatt hour electricity in the evening, all following utility rules. But that possibility is being drowned out by all of the vehicle to grid initiatives that the utilities have persuaded the car companies to do, and all these virtual power plants looking at leveraging battery capacity for free from these customers who think they're getting a good deal.
Barry Cinnamon with us today, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems. Reach out to Barry and his team at 408-883-7000, cinnamon.energy. Go there today. We learned a lot having you on the program today. I hope you don't mind us having you back. I mentioned a little bit ago to you off the line that I have a veterinarian emergency, and I'll be needing to leave the program at about probably 5-6 minutes or so from now to help with a pet that we have. So appreciate your understanding there. Barry, while I still have you here, and again, I hope you come back, Barry Cinnamon with Cinnamon Energy Systems here at the Beyond Emissions podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the program. So for our homeowners who are interested in getting into solar, they're looking into the news and they're seeing something from the utilities that doesn't quite make sense. Flat fees based on income of the customers instead of being charged per kilowatt hour. Or I'm confused. Have you heard about this, Barry? Can kind of
Yeah,
seems...
I've heard of it, and this is a very, very high priority issue for the California Solar and Storage Association. We've been fighting. We successfully fought the solar tax last year to, prevent the utilities from taxing just solar customers. Their next effort was just to say, well, we will, and because there was some crazy research paper that said that, since we want to make electricity costs more, fairer across the spectrum of income levels, that we should tax, disproportionately charge higher income customers more for electricity. And so that was the plan. The more income you make, the more you pay per kilowatt hour, or the same you pay per kilowatt hour, but the bigger the fixed charge. And they had been talking about fixed charges that might have been in the $50 to $100 range. So every single month, if you're medium or high income, you pay $75 a month. So that was on an income base. And there's privacy issues related to that. And I believe that is not kind of the primary effort right now. The utilities are going back to just a simple high fixed charge for everybody, based on, just a high fixed charge, $35, $45 a month, every single month. And then perhaps giving low-income customers a discount. We have something called the CARE program in California, where they may be able to partially offset that low cost. But the problem with all these plans is it disincentivizes saving money. And, that's ultimately going to be pretty destructive to our goal of electrifying everything. So the jury is out. CALSA and other entities are fighting very, very hard against this, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. We love having you on the program, and I appreciate our friendship, Barry. Thank you very much for joining us here at the Beyond Emissions podcast. Like I said, we have to prematurely wrap it up today. Got a cat I've got to take to the little kitty cat that I've got to take to the vet, and had it pop up on the schedule right at the same time. So appreciate your understanding and your patience with me on that. Would you be willing to come back and join us again for another continuation of the show, Barry?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I hope your cat does okay, and I hope the vet bill isn't too high, and I hope the vet hospital has solar on the roof, as a lot of veterinarian hospitals have done. So absolutely a pleasure speaking with you, Josh, and we'll talk again.
Excellent. Barry Cinnamon, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems. If folks would like to contact you, Barry, directly as a resource, also as well, your company is amazing in supplying solutions for clean energy, not just solar, not just batteries, but whole systems, efficiency, the whole enchilada. You're an amazing company at Cinnamon Energy Systems. Cinnamon.energy. If folks would like to contact you directly or reach out, or they have any questions, Barry, how can they reach you?
The best way is info@cinnamon.energy, CINNAMON.energy. There's no .com. We're an energy company. And that's the best way for them to get in touch with me, and that email will eventually get to me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Barry. Hang on the line for our engineers. We're going to have Barry back. Thank you so much for joining us, Barry. Oh, real quick, by the way, if folks would like to listen, you have an awesome radio show as well. It's been on for years, and you have lots of listeners. It's a great program. Where can folks catch your radio show?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I've got to pitch our energy show. So I've been doing the energy show for, over 10 years. And you can go to, there's like 400 something episodes there, covering everything from the best solar panel to what a heat pump does and energy policy. So go to energyshow.biz. That's ENERGYSHOW.biz. And, you can take a look at it there, and you can also listen to us on all the major podcast feeds.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Barry Cinnamon, CEO of Cinnamon Energy Systems. He will be back on the show. Thank you very much, Barry. Hang on the line for engineers, sir.
All right. Terrific. Thanks, Josh.
You're listening to the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Solagent. your total clean energy solution provider. Thanks for joining us every single week right here at the Solagent YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, comment down below as well so you can be a part of the ongoing conversation about what it's going to take to create this world that is beyond emissions.
We at Solagent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with GivePower. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about GivePower if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with GivePower since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by LoanPal's dedication to the cause. Something LoanPal said really strikes a chord regarding GivePower, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Solagent.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound LoanPal's contribution by donating to GivePower on every order paid via our direct pay program through LoanPal. That's right. Every time your company uses your LoanPal portal to pay Solagent for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot more.
Solagent's purpose meets GivePower's mission. Join the impact. Solagent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more.